G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to another edition of SuperCoach Edge. And of course we are back to review another match sim, and this time it was between my mob in Carlton up against Geelong at Icon Park. And it was good to see first hit out for my mob. Unfortunately didn't get the win, but just, opportunity to blow off the cobwebs, as it were, and just was good to see some of the new players in action. But before we delve into all things stats and analysis, shout out as well to AFL Central, who, if you don't know, he's the absolute legend who's been collating all the data, all the stats for these match sims. And for this game in particular, Geelong and Carlton, I actually helped him out and went in and, as I was watching the game, took some notes in terms of the stats as I watched. And so what I'll show you on screen in a moment will be all my handiwork, but what I will pop up now is some CBAs and kick-in numbers, which I didn't take because I know the good crew over at Code Sports / Herald Sun have been putting together those raw stats. So I'll start off with that, just give a bit of context in terms of where guys were playing. So in terms of Carlton for kick-ins, no surprise here, I didn't take any stats, but I did notice that McGovern had the most, and as you can see here, he had the 6 kick-ins, Jordan Boyd with 3, Nick Newman with 2, and Adam Sard with 1. For Geelong, again, not many kick-ins in terms of behinds or kicks out of the full, which there was a couple, one from Harry and one from Charlie as well, probably another one as well, but Tom Stewart had the most with 3, Mitch Duncan with 2, College Ashney with 1, and Maxi Holmes also with 1. In terms of CBAs, this provides obviously a bit of context around who was playing through the middle, and no surprise here because it does line up with my stats, as you'll see in a moment. Tanner Bruin, 13 CBAs, the most for the Cats, followed by Tom Atkins, Jack Bowes with 11, Conway with 10. So as you can see here in the notes, they've written that he was rotating with Reece Stanley, which he was, and also Blitzarves as well, which they haven't listed there. But Conway, 10 CBAs, Jai Clark with 9, Dangerfield with 7, and he was, of course, rested, as you can see there in the first quarter. Stanley with 5, Max Holmes with 3, Shannon Neal with 2 as a relief ruckman, and Cam Guthrie with 1, which was virtually his only foray into the middle and through the game, because he got injured 15 seconds into the actual game itself. He took a kick, I think it was the first clearance, got the ball, kicked it, and did his quad. So we don't know the full extent to that injury, so we're still waiting to hear back from the Cats as to what the scans reveal. But for those people that were eyeing off Cam Guthrie, you're going to have to look elsewhere. And I was already wary of him given his injury history, but, off the back of this, not touching him, even in season. So for Carlton, let's move to them. Tom De Koning with 15. So he shot the ruck for the entire day. Looked pretty impressive. I won't go into too much detail as yet, because I don't want to ruin my analysis, but 15 CBAs for him. Georgie Hewitt, 13, Cripper, 12, Doherty, 11, which I'll flick across in a moment to another article that I read off the back of, post-match chats and interviews and everything else, articles that were written up. And Doherty actually mentions that he's going to be playing predominantly in the midfield this season, pretty much full-time at midfield, which is quite surprising. But there we go. I'll flick across that in a moment. Adam Sherrill with 9, Hollands with 4, McKay with 3, Carroll with 3, as you can see there, he came on late. I think he only played the last quarter, if that. Cunningham with 1, and Fogarty also with 1. So let's flick across to what I was referencing there from Doherty, and there's an article here just about, I guess, in terms of his role now as being a leader, and he's actually switching between, in the midfield and wing with Ollie Hollands, and he mentions that in this article here, which is available on Carlton's website. But he says there, as quoted, you can see here, the majority of my footy will be in the midfield this year, being able to give the team different looks from a structure point of view. That's what we're adding into our game. Just saying that he's reinvigorated towards the back end of last year, playing through the middle, all that sort of stuff. So looks as though that is his new home, which is very interesting. And I think if Sammy Walsh doesn't get up for the season opener in round 0 and maybe round 1, that's even more reason that we're going to see Doherty through the middle. But I also will flick across to, this is another article, of course, on Carlton's website, I'll discuss all the defenders, of course, as well, and how they perform for Carlton, but we must remember that Zach Williams wasn't playing, and there is a little bit of a query. You may have seen it in the media that they're worried that Williams mightn't be available for round 0. And this is Aaron Hamill, of course, one of the assistant coaches at Carlton. He was saying that, how many markers does he need to tick off? And he said not too many. He's got to get through a couple more milestones physically with what he's doing. But he's had an excellent couple of months. We won't be any rush with him. But when he's right and the high-performance team are comfortable with him ticking all the indicators, then we'll eject him into the game. He's not far away, Zach. So I think reading between the lines there, I think he will be available for the season opener. And to that point, I think the analysis that we can draw from the defenders and how they performed in this game against the Cats might be diluted ever so slightly when Zach Williams comes back into the team. Albeit you'd be thinking, though, they're going to be managing his load, especially early in the season, before he gets up to full fitness, is Zachy Williams. So without further ado, let's flick across to my stats page, if it fits on screen. There we go. I can fit him in here. Here we go. So starting from the top, Nick Newman, very relevant as well, considering I was just chatting about Zach Williams and the impact he may have coming back into the team. So 21 disposals, had the most for Carlton. Should preface this as well in terms of all these stats. You may be thinking, they look relatively low, but keep in mind this is a 38-degree day in Melbourne, and each of the 4 quarters was capped at 20 minutes with no time on. I think there was maybe a quarter there where the timekeeper fell asleep and it went to around about 23 minutes. But yeah, by and large, they were all being capped at 20 minutes, just so players weren't bloody melting on field. But Nick Newman, 21 disposals, as you can see there. A lot of run and carry type stuff with him. His role is exactly the same as we saw last year. Really rebounding off defence, even pushing up through the middle as well at various stages when the ball was in their Carlton's front half. And yeah, looked pretty good by and large. But again, I am still worried about picking any of these Carlton defenders because I worry when Zach Williams comes back into the team, it's going to destabilise things, I think, because there are a lot of guys that are playing virtually the same role, being that, run and carry distributor off half-back. And that's Nick Newman. Boyd is another one, Adam Sard, of course, and then when Williams comes into the team, that is, I think, going to dilute the amount of pie that gets shared around across defence for Carlton. So that aside anyway, Nick Newman, he looked really good and, racked up the pill at will. Adam Shearer, no surprise there, he had the second equal most disposals for Carlton. He was arguably the most impactful through the middle. I thought he was anyway. 19 disposals, 3 marks, 3 tackles, and looked pretty elite. Just picking up where he left off last season in fine fiddle, and looked really good. But in terms of being a SuperCoach pick, I don't think so for him. Paddy Cripps, 19 disposals also. A lot of handballs amongst that, as you can see. 5 marks, 1 tackle, and kicked a nice goal as well. But again, I don't think Cripper at his current price point is going to be any value. So I probably won't talk about him at any real length there. But did look good. Looked like he was in fine nick. Jordan Boyd, as you can see there, spoke of him when I spoke of Newman, of course, being part of that half-back brigade. Looked really good. His running carrier was really good. And I think Carlton really do like, and I've said this previously, they like the ball in his hands because his footwork is very, very silky. That's a really, strong part of his game. And hence the reason why, he took, a number of kick-ins as well in this game. And that kind of links back to that point about Zach Williams, is before Zach Williams, and you would have seen this when Liam and I chatted about it in the Defenders rookie/value episode, when Zach Williams got injured back in 2022, prior to that, the first 3 or 4 games of the season before he got injured, he was actually leading the amount of kick-ins for the team. And part of the reason is obviously Zach Williams can use the ball quite well. So when he comes back into the team, there might be less of, kick-ins to go around when he does enter into the team. So that aside, anyway, I think Boyd looked really good, and no surprise there that he was among the best for this game. Ollie Hollands, he was, I think, behind Shearer, the most impressive. 14 disposals, 3 marks, 5 tackles, and kicked an absolute ripping goal. If you haven't seen it, check out Carlton's Twitter or X, because from memory, I think it was O'Sullivan, the youngster for the Cats. Duncan kicked the ball to him. He was sort of on Carlton's half-forward line, fumbled the ball, it went to ground. Ollie Hollands just came bursting through, picked up the ball at speed, brushed off O'Sullivan, who tried to tackle him, and then kicked from 50. Beautiful goal. And yeah, just absolutely fantastic. And really see this guy stepping up. And I think part of the reason as well is that he's going to be given quite a few CBAs this season compared to previous years where he's kind of been groomed along the wing. He's got the endurance base now to run through the middle. And like that article that I flicked to before, where Doherty was talking about, I guess interchanging with Hollands. He's talking about Hollands playing more time through the middle, and that's sort of part of the reason why he's switching his position with him. But yeah, really impressive. McGovern, spoke about him, took a bulk of the kick-ins, so that's pretty much the only thing of note for him. 14 kicks, 0 handballs, 5 marks. Moving on to Akers, yeah, not too bad. Had his, trademark turnovers here or there, but, by and large, was very, very solid. Doherty, spoke of him as well, 14 disposals. Elijah Hollands on debut looked actually really good, especially early on. Did really nice work on the half-forward line, a few kicks inside 50, hitting up targets, and I think he will be a very solid pickup for Carlton. Adam Sard, spoke of him, took a few kick-ins as well. Not too bad, run and dash, kind of, I think it was the second quarter and the fourth potentially, where he kind of picked up a bit of speed. Really, really good. Tackling work was really good as well, but his run and dash, as we always know, his trademark, looked really, really good. Fantasia on debut, passed off an easy gimme goal to Moya on debut, who kicked 2 goals. I'll speak of him in a moment. But yeah, Fantasia, by and large, I don't think he is someone that you can really have any confidence in. First and foremost, obviously, with his injury history, but also the role that he plays. Needs to rely on bags of goals to really score well enough from week to week. So, no, he's not in calculations, even at that higher price point. I think he's, 180 odd, thereabouts. I don't think he's going to be averaging enough to make enough bank to warrant selection. De Koning, as I said at the very start, he played full-time ruck, 26 hit-outs, looked really good, dominant in the ruck. Didn't do too much around the ground, as you can see here. Yeah, he's not a Supercoach selection, I don't think, this year anyway, especially with Pitnet to come back into the team. And as I said, Ashton Moore. So he kicked the 2 goals. One was a gimme. Did a couple of all right things, but yeah, you can't ask too much for him. First game, I guess, at senior level, and I don't think at this stage he's going to be in line for a debut. Maybe later in the season, potentially as a downgrade option. Moving on to Geelong, so Maxi Holmes, he was arguably best on ground alongside this guy here in Myers, aka Messi, and both of those guys finished with 18 disposals, 7 marks for Myers, and 2 goals won. He was virtually everywhere. He was playing all over the ground. He was on the wing, he was through the middle, he was pushing forward inside 50, taking marks, kicking goals on the run, was really dominant. So that was one of the big standout performances for the Cats. But Holmes more so in the fact that his role was predominantly off half-back. So he was playing that distributor role where he was just running, carrying, he was hitting up targets. And again, much like Boyd, I guess, for Carlton, his kicking is an absolute highlight, and they want his decision making. They want the ball in his hands virtually, because magical things happen when that does happen. So Holmesy, I do like him. He's one to keep an eye on. I think off the back of his role alone, performed it really, really well. So keep an eye on him for the official preseason game to follow. Tanner Bruin, he played predominantly through the middle, almost full-time mid, 16 disposals, 2 marks, 2 tackles. I'm wary of this guy, I know, because he just didn't get the time on ground to, allow him enough time to do damage Supercoach points wise. So I wouldn't be looking at him as yet. I think he's an awkward price as well from memory. Jack Bowes, he played again, much like Brun, played a majority of time through the middle, 4 tackles, contested work was spot on. But again, I don't know if he'd be much of a selection. I'd keep an eye on him for now, just in case. But again, injury history, all that sort of stuff scares me away personally. Danger, so he rested the first quarter, I think it was. Ended up kicking 1 goal too. Played more so up forward, but had a bit of relief time through the middle as well. Zach Guthrie actually really impressed me playing that halfback role as well. Moved all over the ground, and he's one of the big improvers for the Cats, I must say. Clark, the highly rated junior, who ended up playing 1 game last season, on everyone's benches, no doubt, and he actually looked not too bad. Had a couple of mistakes, I think just in terms of trying to adjust to the speed of the game, but no doubt he'll pick that up in time, and I think he is in line for a round 1, not debut, but lining up for round 1 onwards, and I think he will get bulk opportunity to be in the best 22 throughout the season, or 23, including the sub. Dempsey actually looked pretty good, had a couple of nice moments, and really had a nice mark as well. Impressed, 11 disposals, 6 marks, but don't think he is relevant, or even as a cash cow. Tom Stewart, you may see he had only 10 disposals, and 3 of those were from kick-ins. Didn't do too much. I think that's part of the reason being is because of the temperature, and I think the Cats were just rotating him, and they were rotating most of the team. I probably should mention as well, as I said, they were 20-minute quarters, but also, as you can see here, I'll highlight it, but they had 31 players that they rotated through their team, and Carlton had 24 from memory. Yes, 24. So that's sort of no surprise, I think, given that. And I think with these first choice, A graders for the Cats, they weren't pushing them too hard, especially considering the hot conditions. But 10 disposals, 1 mark, didn't do too much. Pushed up to a couple of contests from memory, more so on the wing. But again, didn't really have much of an impact. More so just, as Liam and I spoke of in the Defender Premium episode, is like 2023, he was starting at the stoppages, but then as soon as the ball was bounced, was kind of spreading from there, providing options. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be much of a feature this season, despite the fact that, yes, they've said that he might play more mid-time, but I think if they are, that's probably the role that he will be taking, not as a traditional midfielder as such. So Mana, the mature age recruit for the Cats, he came on late. I think it would have been the 3rd quarter from memory. He only played the second half. If that, maybe it might have been halfway through the 3rd, so it might have only been a quarter and a half. But did a couple of nice things, really nice kick, and really built, as you'd expect, mature age player playing for Werribee in the VFL. He's well built for senior footy, so no real worry there. And ended up having a shot for goal, but ended up kicking a behind. But I think he will get a game for the Cats, so no worries there. O'Sullivan, the highly rated junior for the Cats, from the 2023 draft, I think from memory. He did a couple of okay things, but yeah, not quite up to speed as yet. Conway, another guy, and he started the first choice ruck in the first quarter, and then when Stanley was injected into the game, quarter 2, and then I think from memory, Conway played majority of his time in quarter 1 and 3, and Stanley in 2 and 4. So they were kind of interchanging between both of the guys. Hence the reason why their hit out numbers are quite spread, and really they don't have too many numbers in terms of stats. In terms of him being best 23, Conway, I think there is a chance, but probably dependent upon matchup more than anything. The big old Oisin sauce, Oisin Mullen, didn't do too much, really didn't notice him at all. As you can see there, 4 handballs, didn't have much of an impact. I do like the look of this man here, Neil, not from a SuperCoach perspective, but if you're a Cats fan, I'd be very, very bullish about him when the Tomahawk retires. You've got a ready-made replacement here. This guy is an absolute beast, ripping player. And that's pretty much it. And I spoke of Guthrie as well. He lasted 15 seconds into the match and kaput, done. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Takeaways from the game, I think, in terms of defensive structure and matchup, again, wait and see. Hopefully Williams can play for Carlton in their official preseason match, just to see how things, even out in terms of the roles for the likes of Boyd, Newman, Williams. As I said, Doherty's going to be playing more time in the midfield, which probably frees up the likes of Newman and Boyd and potentially Williams, and opens up a bit of space there. But that's something to keep an eye on. Ollie Hollands could be a speculative pick, but don't think so. You have to be very brave with that. And for the Cats, keep an eye on Holmes. Keep an eye on Bruin and Bowes to a lesser extent. But outside of that, Clark, he's a gimme in terms of rookies. And then, of course, obviously Conway and Manor as well. But looked all right. Wouldn't be worried about Tom Stewart if any of those tuning in are owners like myself. So don't be worried. Hot conditions, reduced quarter length, all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty much it. That's the whole box and dice, ladies and gents. Next up, we will be delving into the next match sim, which was, in terms of what I've watched up next, the Dogs up against the Hawks. A few players there that are obviously very relevant for SuperCoach. So, we'll delve into that. But aside from that, if you've enjoyed what we've produced over the preseason thus far, give us a like, give us a sub, and we'll be very appreciative of your support, as we are, as always, for any of you tuning in, whether it be via YouTube or audio podcast. And if you're listening to us on audio podcast as well, feel free to give us a review, a rating system, whatever it is on Spotify, Apple, all that sort of stuff. And if you do, you're an absolute legend. But aside from that, what you can look forward to next from Liam and I. Liam and I will be reconvening very soon, potentially next week, because Liam's had a little bit of time off after marrying his longtime partner. Well overdue, well earned. And I've just been twiddling away here, watching matches and digesting stats, analysing all that sort of stuff, what we do best, what we love. But we'll be releasing, of course, our team update or team reveal update to come up next. But aside from that, if you have any questions, comments, if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to leave it in the comments section below. And likewise, if you're listening to us on audio podcast, you can slide into our DMs on Twitter, and we will help out any way we can. But aside from that, ladies and gents, we will catch you in the next one. Cheers.